Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. I hope you are all okay and doing well. So today I'm going to be talking about what makes a good palette, what my pros and cons are to them, and if they're worth their money. So I've got a massive range here from like drugstore to high end. Some of them are like in between and depending on which site you get them from and what brand they are. It depends on their prices. So I'm going to get straight into it. So first up I've got the Beauty Bay's own makeup palettes. I'm not too sure whether you'd class this as drugstore or normal, but it's their own one. So on Beauty Bay some of the stuff is like more expensive, but they came out with their own palettes which I'd say are pretty affordable. So this is the Identity palette, which is basically got full of nudes, but what caught my eye when I was looking at buying this palette was this red, and it is a really nice red. Let's see if I can swatch it. Really nice red. I have dove into a few colours. They've got some nice shimmers down here. Hit pan on their rose gold. Their white here is a lovely colour that you can use for highlight as well as in your eyeshadows. And overall I'd say this is a pretty good palette. It does come with a big mirror, which is great for when you're travelling, you don't have a mirror with you. The only thing is it is a really big bulky palette, like it is the size of my head, so it's quite hard to carry around with you. It doesn't really fit into a makeup bag, so you'd have to put it in a backpack or something if you're travelling. But there is 42 different colours in here. I will link all the products down below because I'm not really sure the prices off the top of my head. The next one is also Beauty Bay, but it is their mini travel size. This is the same colour packaging as the Identity one, but this is fully colourful, and I absolutely love doing colour eyeshadow. And as you can see, I hit pan on the whites, which seem to be a very common thing throughout my eyeshadow palettes. I'd say the best whites I have is this one and my James Charles one, because they are just pure white. They are great colours, and as I'm quite fair, to get a white that is whiter than my own skin tone is quite hard. So yeah, definitely got some wear out of this. There's a lot of fallout with this palette. As you can see, it's all over my palette. This is definitely a travel one that I always take with me. It's only got 9 shades, I believe, in it. Yeah, 9 shades altogether, so it's a great little travel palette. You can make good few eye looks out of this. And if I fancy doing a bright eyeshadow look, I like to take this with me instead of bringing a massive colourful palette, which I have some to the side of me. Keeping it on the drugstore side, I have more face palettes here. So this is the Revolution Cream Contour palette. I really like this palette. I've used quite a lot of their concealer, and I've dove into the bronzer. Some of these are way too dark for me. I would like a bit more of a colour range because these are quite dark. I don't normally use this as concealer. I used to use this to cut my crease. I'm pretty sure it was about £5–6, and I still use it now as a cream contour or cream bronzer, and I think it's a very good palette for its price actually. I think Revolution have some good bronzers, some good blushers, and they're really affordable. Speaking of, here's another Revolution palette, and this is their blush and highlight palette. I have a sort of love-hate relationship for this palette. It's a bit battered. I've had it a long time. I've taken it everywhere with me. Still haven't hit pan. There's a lot of product in here and you don't really use a lot for blush, so I don't think I've ever hit pan on a blush product. But this shade and this shade in particular are my favourites. This is way too pink for my liking, and I'm not really a fan of shimmery blush, and this has got a lot of shimmer in it. But they are very pigmented, very nice colours. and they blend out really nicely. But on the other hand, their highlighters, Revolution's highlighters, I just never really get along with. They're not, I like a really vibrant, like in your face highlighter. If you prefer a highlighter that's just going to give you a little bit of shine and make your face look a little bit dewy, then Revolution ones are really good for you and they're really cheap. But I just like a more in your face highlighter, and Revolution don't just cut it for me. Got 2 more Revolution products. This is the Beauty and the Beast storybook. So it looks like a book. It's got the Beauty and the Beast on the front, and it opens up into the face side and then the eyeshadow. I absolutely love the packaging of this. I am a massive Disney fan, so I was very intrigued when this launch came out. And I've decided to go with the Belle one because it had more bright colours in it for me. The Cinderella did have some blues, but there was the blue in the Belle, so I was happy to stick with that. They are some very good, don't know how I'm trying to swatch these. They're some very good pigment. They blend out lovely. Once again, don't really get on with their highlighters, and this one even more because it's harder to pick up any product. Like, you can barely see that I've got highlighter on my hand there. Their blushes, on the other hand, I'm wearing right now. I love it. It's a really good colour. One of my favourite colours. I prefer more darker pinks than brighter pinks. This bronzer, also wearing now, is a lovely shade and is a good build-up shade, so it doesn't fully bring a load of product onto you. You sort of build it up to the right warmth and how much you want. These two are way too dark for me. But if a highlight is ever too dark for me, I normally just use it as shimmer for my eyeshadows, but these aren't really that shimmery, so I probably won't be using these 3, but these 3 I'll get my use out of. And I love the names of all these eyeshadows. Like, there's all the characters, Mrs. Potts, Belle, and then there's stuff like Petal, Spell. I love how much effort went into this palette, and it's quite a secure packaging to just travel with you. Not too big, and I will definitely be taking this places with me. As it has blush, bronzer and eyeshadow, it's a really good to just chuck in your bag, and you don't really need to take loads of palettes with you. So this one gets a good plus up for me. Next is my Soph palette, which I have used so much I have broke. So it does come with a mirror, but unfortunately my mirror has snapped off. It's seen better days, to be honest. Did use this palette for quite a long time, but as I've said before, I keep buying palettes. Every time a new palette comes out, I'm intrigued, I want to buy one, so my old palettes just sort of get pushed to the side. So this is a really good one from Revolution, wasn't too expensive, got some really good pigment on them. They're white once again, I love a good white. Their shimmers, my purple has sort of exploded as travel when my mirror is broke. When the lid sort of isn't on there, it gets chucked around my case, so I can't really take this travelling anymore. But it is a really good palette for its price, and I love Soph and I love her collection. I have some Juvia's Place ones. They were also, I think, like my 3rd palette I bought. These are quite old, but they are colourful, and the pigment on some of these. So I thought this was going to be more white than what it is. And as I said, it's hard to find a white that is whiter than my skin tone, because their white there is darker than my skin tone, so it wouldn't really work when I want to have a white base. Their shimmers are amazing, and I think this palette was about £30–35. So for the size of the palette and the size of each pan, I think it's really worth its price. And if I try and swatch there, it's going to be full of swatches by the end. That's literally one dip. That yellow is honestly, I actually come back to this palette, and it's a really old palette, just for this yellow. I am obsessed with this yellow. Their pink's just the same. Is crazy how pigmented these eyeshadows are. The dark blue and the dark purple, dark eyeshadows are really hard to be blendable and to formulate really. So they're a little bit hard to blend in with the other colours. I don't really use them that often because they're not the best, but all the other shades on this palette are lovely. There are more shimmers than mattes, but I prefer that because this palette does their shimmers are amazing. That's just the red, like how pigmented they are is incredible, and the amount you get is great for the money. Then I bought the littler version, which I'm pretty sure was £20, either £20 or £25 about, and as you can see, this one here broke travelling, so wasn't the most secure, but also it was small. Some of my makeup bags is too big for, some of my makeup bags it fits in, so it just depended on which one I took on that actual journey. Their shimmers, as I said, consistent in this other palette, very very shimmery, and I just got some brighter shimmer colours. This pink is a neon pink. It is so bright, so when you want to do a pink look, this is the palette I go back into because that pink is just so vibrant. But you don't really need to use much product with these because they blend seamlessly. I honestly really like these two palettes, and they will probably forever stay on my top favourites. Next we have more colour, which I am already covered in swatches, and this is my latest buy, and the hype for this at one point was crazy, so I thought I had to give it a try. I bought the big version, this is the XL, and their shades drew me in, honestly. I just wanted to swatch this all over my arm as soon as I got it. It comes with 3 different highlighters. It's so big you literally can't hold it and show you. It comes with 3 different highlighters. Once again, these two are obviously too dark for me, but I love that they have that different shades in all these palettes just for different skin tones. But these two are good enough that I can use them as an eyeshadow. Like, they are so vibrant, and the white is more like goldy, so that will definitely be used, but it's a light enough gold. I can't really put gold highlighters on my face because you can just see this gold like cast left on my face when I look straight at you. If I look sideways, it's like normally okay. It's just the fact that if you look forward, you can just see this gold line like I've put eyeshadow on my cheeks, and it's not really the vibe I'm going for. But in here, the pigmentation in this palette is amazing. But these palettes are got some high pigment in. Like, that yellow is amazing. This green, all the neon colours in here are just, I can't even say any more good words about this palette. I am obsessed, and I am wearing all the brown shades today because I thought I'd never get around to using the more basic colours in this palette, because as soon as I open the palette my eyes just get drawn to all the colours. But I think this is definitely a more high end, it's around £40–50, but I definitely say that it's worth it. And this is my new favourite palette to play around with. much more into colours is the James Charles and Morph palette. As you can see, I've hit pan on the white once again. Honestly shocked when I open a palette at this point and I haven't hit pan on their white. I've hit pan on their yellow because just like the Carnival palette, their yellow, oh I mixed that with red, their yellow is so pigmented, it's crazy. This once again, just like the other eyeshadow palette, they're all very pigmented shades. I wouldn't say the shimmers are that good. They are shimmery, but compared to some of the eyeshadow palettes I have, the shimmers aren't that great, and I'd say it's around the same price range as this one, and this one's got amazing shimmers in it. But the mattes are definitely worth it. I love these colours, they blend lovely into each other. I'm not normally a fan of Morph. When I first started off makeup, Morph was like the one palette that everyone bought, and I had about 5, and it didn't take me really long to realise that I didn't really like it. But this Morph eyeshadow palette is actually really, really good compared to all their normal ones. It also comes with a mirror, so it's great for when I'm travelling. Every eyeshadow palette, if it has a mirror, it has plus points for me, because no one ever puts a mirror in their makeup bag. You always just hope one of your palettes has a mirror, because when you're doing your makeup on the go, you don't want to be holding a mirror, holding a palette, don't have any hands to do anything. So I like the 2-in-1, and I definitely think this palette was worth one of my buys. It's been my favourite palette for a good few months now, until I bought this palette, but I wouldn't really say they're too different. They're just really bright, colourful palettes, and I love them both. Okay, next is KVD, or Kat Von D Shade Light Contour Palette. I have had a dent into this palette. This is probably my favourite contour and bronzer I've ever tried, and the amount of times I've gone into Debenhams to try and find this shade in a refill, always out of stock, always. The struggles I am having to find more of this bronzer is unreal, but I don't blame everyone because it is a great bronzer. I'd say this is about £40 odd for the whole palette, but you do get powder, contour and 2 shades of bronzer. This one's way too dark for me, which is how it hasn't been touched. This is an amazing contour shade. It's lovely and cool toned. I use it every day really. I use this as my go-to contour. I use them exactly the same, but you don't really use as much as your contour as you do with your bronzer, so that's how my bronzer has run out before my contour, which I'm very upset about. This powder, I don't really know how it's got that much of a dent in it, because it's really not my favourite. I think I used to use it to set my concealer on my eyeshadow on my eyes, because none of these powders really were my shade. This was too pink, this was too yellow, and this was too dark. Even though this palette is like for lighter skin tones, I don't really think that any of these powders were my shade. So I'm pretty sure I just used to use this when I run out of all my whites. And I will, as soon as this is back in stock, I will be restocking, which is how much I like this bronzer. The Huda Beauty Rose Gold Remaster palette, and the shimmers in this are like cream. They are so creamy, and I don't even think I've got room to be swatching. Like, look at that shimmer. You can see my finger indent in each one of those shimmers. They are absolutely beautiful. I've had this for a handful of months and I've already hit pan on the Moon Dust shade. Like, some of these eyeshadows, even their matte colours are so pigmented. You really don't need a lot on your brush. It goes a really long way and they blend amazingly into each other. I do use this palette on a regular basis, especially if I want a pink eyeshadow look. This isn't really a travel palette because there isn't too many looks I can do with this eyeshadow. There is, but not that I normally do. None of the eyeshadows I normally go for are in this, apart from if I do a bronze look or a pink look. So that is it. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of all the palettes, if you're going to buy any of them, or if there's any you recommend me trying. Thanks for watching and I'll see you guys soon.